In this video, we're going to talk about how to write an equation in standard form of a line. The equation for standard form is when your x and your y's are on the same side. So you have a times x plus b times y is equal to c. We start off doing this by just writing an equation like we have so far using our point-slope form. So you'll notice the first thing that we have to do is find the slope. So to find the slope, my slope equation is equal to the change in y divided by the change in x, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if this is my point 1 and this is my point 2, and remember points go x comma y. In my point number 2, here, and I'll highlight this for you. In my point number 2, my y value is 6. In my point number 1, my y value is 0. In my point number 2, my x value is 1. And in my point number 1, my x value is negative 2. So I'm going to fill this in. So I get 6 minus 0 divided by 1 minus a negative 2. Remember, minus and negative is the same thing as adding the opposite. So this becomes 6 divided by 3, or 3. So I have the slope of my line is equal to 3. And now I'm going to choose a point. It doesn't really matter which point I choose, so I'm going to choose the point 1, 6. And I'm going to use this information to write an equation in point-slope form. So my point-slope says y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So remember, when you're doing this, your x1 is represented by your x value in the point that you chose, and your y1 is represented by the y value in the point that you chose, and your slope is going to go right here. So by plugging in the information, I get y minus 6 is equal to 3 times x minus 1. Now this is what is an equation in point-slope form. We want to now transform this into an equation that is in standard form. So to do that, we're going to first distribute. So I get y minus 6 is equal to 3x minus 3. And I'm going to get all my constants on one side, so I'm going to add 6 to both sides. So this gives me y is equal to 3x plus 3. Now, if I wanted to write an equation in slope-intercept form, this would be my final answer. Remember, slope-intercept form looks like y equals mx plus b. But I don't want slope-intercept form. They want you to write this equation in standard form. So what that means is you have to take this 3x and you have to move it to the left side of your equation. So I'm going to move all my work up here because I'm running out of space. So I'm at y is equal to 3x plus 3. So I have to move my 3x. I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. I get negative 3x plus y is equal to 3. Now my x and my y are on the same side. My constants are on the right side. The last thing that you need to know is that equations in standard form, the leading coefficient, so this x value right here has to be a positive number and it cannot be a fraction. So to make sure that it's a positive number, I'm going to take my entire equation and I'm going to multiply it by negative 1. So this gives me 3x minus y equals negative 3. This is your final answer in proper standard equation form, like this. Okay, let's do one more example. We're going to go ahead and do the same process. We want to write an equation in standard form using these 2 points. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to find our slope. Our slope is equal to the change in y divided by the change in x, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This is my point number 2, and this is my point number 1. In my point number 2, my y value is 1. In my point number 1, my y value is -2. In my point number 2, my x value is 8. And in my point number 1, my x value is 2. So this becomes 1 plus 2, which is 3, and 8 minus 2, which is 6, giving me a slope reducing this fraction into 1/2. Now I need to choose a point. I'm going to choose my point 2, -2. To use this information to write my equation on my line, I'm going to start off in point slope form. So y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So remember, my slope comes from here. My x1 comes from here. And my y1 comes from here. So I'm going to plug all this in. Y minus -2 is equal to 1/2 times x minus 2. Okay. Minus and negative is the same thing as adding, so this becomes y plus 2 equals 1/2 times x minus 2. I'm going to distribute. Y plus 2 is equal to 1/2 x minus 1. I'm going to get all my constants on the right side, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. I get y is equal to 1/2 x minus 3. Now, this would be my equation if I was in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, but they want me to go one step further and write an equation in standard form. So, this is slope-intercept form. Which again says y equals mx plus b. But I'm going to go one step further and I'm going to write my equation in standard form. To do that, I have to get my x's and my y's on the same side. So I'm going to subtract 1/2 x from both sides. This gives me -1/2 x plus y is equal to -3. Now, remember, in standard form, which looks like ax plus by is equal to c, your a value must be positive and a whole number, no fractions. So I have to somehow get rid of this fraction. So I'm going to multiply by what we call the opposite reciprocal, where I have to actually clear out this 2 and get rid of this negative. So I'm going to take my whole equation and I'm going to multiply it by -2. -2 times -1/2 is +1. -2 times y is -2y. And -3 times -2 is +6. So my final answer is 1x minus 2y equals 6, or x minus 2y is equal to 6. This is my final answer of my equation in standard form. I would just like to point out that this equation is in standard form. This is the equation of the same line in slope-intercept form. And this is the equation of the same line And you can even leave it just like this in point slope form. So you can write the same equation of the same line in 3 different ways. Point slope, slope intercept, and standard form.